The Lower East Side is such a famous neighborhood in so many different ways and has been a crossroad of so many different communities for hundreds of years. But the story of queer history in the neighborhood really hasn't been highlighted.
We've got a little over a dozen places that we go in the neighborhood, not all at any individual tour. And so there's some 19th century history stuff about, we go to places that had queer nightlife in the 1890s and talk about the story of a gender nonconforming person in the 1850s that we know about through an old article, but also there's a lot more late 20th century stuff. We go to the site of Star House, and so it really does sort of run the gamut.
And also the six of us who created the tour just really deeply love this neighborhood, and
the history in this neighborhood is, I think, a lot richer than a lot of people think.
What do queer spaces give us? Safety, other kinds of acceptance, other kinds of like community-only experiences that are important to have, even if, you know, queer people are accepted into straight spaces. Is like inclusion into straight spaces the end goal, or is there like something magical in an exclusively queer space? A lot to think about.
A lot of those places served a very specific purpose when people couldn't create community online, when people couldn't create community out in the open. Like, these spaces became the only place that you could go that was a safe space.
I think we're sort of constantly in dialogue with the past and also with the future, right? We are writing our own lives down so that they are remembered, and we hope that someone in the future might then look at our records and make the kinds of inferences we'd like them to make about the way that we lived, and to have kind of the imagination of possibility. And we also are doing that for people 100 years ago. The way that queer people today still in many cases their identity is preserved primarily through police records, things like that. Any other thoughts? Questions? Yes?
I think so often with stories about marginalized communities or communities who have experienced trauma, the focus really is on the trauma. The focus is on how they were excluded, on like all of these things that happened to them as this article is framed. But I just love that we're picking out the happy parts of it, or the potential happiness within it, and kind of, I love that framing of like, I don't know, I don't want to call it like an anti-trauma lens, but like this different framing of it.